Hello people of YouTube, welcome to the review. Today's subject of review is Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. Now, just having Wes Anderson's name on this alone should generate intrigue, as Anderson is definitely one of the most unique directors out there, having directed films like The Grand Budapest Hotel and Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is his first venture into a feature-length animation since Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it is very much in the same style of animation. It is definitely not what you'd expect to see an animated film look like, hence why these films stand out amongst the fully digital animations of Illumination, Disney and DreamWorks. And these are the kind of animation films I like because they have a more mature edge to them. If you think this is an adorable film full of dogs after seeing the trailer, then you are in for a big surprise. Now the story is simple. A young boy is going after his lost dog. That is the basic premise of a basic story. Now, throw that story into a world where there is a violent epidemic of dog flu that the people are paranoid is spreading to their own species due to fear-mongering from Kobayashi, which is used to pass a decree that all dogs must be exiled to an island full of junk. All the while, an outspoken scientist, Watanabe, is trying harder to develop a cure that Kobayashi does not want to get out, as his family hates dogs. That's right, an animated film has political messages and a conspiracy in it. Only a director like Wes Anderson could put that into a simple story. This is executed brilliantly. First of all, I have major respect to the writers, which include Wes Anderson, to set this in Japan. Not only does that create a more international feel to an industry dominated by Western culture, but it also allows the film to flow through the old adage of show don't tell, as almost all of the human leads don't speak English. Side note, the text at the start of the film that said the characters would be speaking in their native tongue, outside of film translations, and the dog's barks all been translated into English, was a really nice touch when it came to setting audience expectations. I feel like I would appreciate this film more fully if I understood Japanese, because unless what those particular characters are saying is something that drives the narrative forward, there are literally scenes with no translation where you're just watching someone speaking Japanese to each other, though their body language allows you to put two and two together most of the time, even when you're not paying attention. In terms of tone, I will say don't expect an adorable, light-hearted film like Fantastic Mr. Fox. This film literally rips a dog's ear off about 5 minutes in, no joke. This moment is literally there to set the graphic tone, and while it doesn't go full Watership down, it definitely has that mature level to it. But don't worry, this won't scar you for life, though I will say this film is quite morbid. The characters are very nonchalant about discussing dark things like death, and whilst a lot of it will go over young kids' heads, adults will be able to see that Anderson rode the line very fine in this film. There are some scenes where dogs casually describe a fairly graphic death of an off-screen dog, and this film has a fair amount of death for a kids' film. The film has balls, I'll give it that. Now, obviously, the animation is unique, but because it is different, that may attract viewers. So, this film does its best to put arses in seats by absolutely stacking the cast list. Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Ken Watanabe, Jeff Goldblum, Scarlett Johansson, Frances McDormand, Bill Murray. There is a lot of star power in the film, so much that it fills a screen of names during the trailer. However, this is where I do need to start with some negatives, as some of the cast are just not used. Out of the 5 main dogs, Chief, King, Rex, Duke, Boss, only Chief and Rex get much dialogue. Half of Duke's lines are just "have you heard the rumour?", which would always be some sort of information the audience would need to know about, and granted, they do acknowledge that he does hear a lot of rumours later on in the film, but when the character is basically there for mostly exposition dumps, that is very poor character development. And Boss and King are basically sports mascot and TV personality. They're the only bits of development these two characters are given. However, that being said, some of the voice acting is fantastic. Cranston's voice is just perfect for Chief, to the point where you could almost feel Walter White's spirit running through him, and Edward Norton absolutely kills it as Rex, as he has a lot of dark and morbid humour coming from his character, and if you have seen Fight Club, you will know that Edward Norton can deliver some very dark lines in a humorous manner. Also, one of the few English-speaking humans, Tracy, is voiced amazingly by Greta Gerwig. Out of the whole cast, she delivers the most passion and gets the MVP here very closely. Her character is basically an exchange student who is chasing this big conspiracy theory that drives the human side of the story, And this is probably the easiest to follow conspiracy depicted on film that I have ever seen, as it finds the balance of being not too confusing, but intriguing enough to keep you focused on the conspiracy. This film goes at a non-stop pace, so keeping with the story easy to follow was a big achievement in my eyes. Also, big shout out to the soundtrack, as that managed to keep the tone tense throughout the film, and it perfectly played with the audience's emotions. Never underestimate the power of the drum. Sadly though, there are some weak story beats. There is a relationship between two of the dogs that gets effectively zero development. In fact, a lot of my issues from this film do come from lack of development. Chief starts off the film not liking the boy that's crash landed on the island of dogs, and you know he's going to like him eventually, but the film just jumps from one end of the spectrum to the other in a blink of an eye with no transition period. Also, considering the boy has come to save Spots because they are so close, their relationship doesn't feel that strong. There is one flashback scene where they first meet and that's it. I know this film's an hour and 40 minutes long, but I wasn't bored at the end, so I do feel they could have done another scene to really develop that bond between the two characters. Also, there is a lot of random crying. I mean, the tears do look great on these characters, but they just seem to come out of nowhere. I think there are one or two times where it does feel earned when this happens, but it happens so often that on those occasions that it is earned, it just doesn't have the same impact as it would if it was very rare. I feel like because of the way the characters are designed, maybe the studio felt they lacked emotional connection, so they insisted on putting tears on these characters. But with the voice talent that they had, there was no need, as the voice performances were already delivering the emotion of these scenes. Whether people will like this film is debatable, as it is so different to what people expect from an animated film. Some of the dialogue, it gets borderline mature at times. There is a scene which confronts one of Duke's rumours, and that scene is heavy, I'll tell you that much. Also, the dogs drink brandy, and there is a scene in a bar, and characters do die. So this is not a cushy animated film. If you're expecting that, then you're just not going to enjoy it. Don't watch it with that expectation. However, overall, I would say go and watch it. This film is ambitious, it has heart, it tells a good story, and it feels shorter than it actually is. Honestly, I wanted this film to be longer. Isle of Dogs is a good cup of tea, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie despite the few hiccups. And I do hope it's running for awards next year, fingers crossed. So anyway, Isle of Dogs, what did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Hit that round subscribe button for more reviews coming all the time. This is Theshpodcast signing off.